Hi everybody, I'm Luciana. I'm a yoga and meditation teacher, and I help women get strong and flexible in their bodies and peaceful in their minds. And today I'm here to talk with you about experience that I had and about being present on and off the mat. So you might have heard like different yoga teachers when you go to class saying, be present, be in the present moment, or let it go, let it go. And for many years, I have to say, I was also like, okay, let it go of what? And I am here, I'm present, I'm in the class, So I never quite understood these sentences, these things that the teachers were saying. And I would just still continue, practicing doing the pose and try to let go, I suppose, of tension. And try to make the most of the session. And before I go further into this, actually, I wanted to say that every practice is unique, and every person is unique. So everyone's experience is different, and there's no better, there's no comparison in a way that, oh, I managed to relax and let go, so I got 10 brownie points and I'm better than you, or she's better than me, or so and so is better than so and so. It's not about that. It's about us coming to ourselves and practicing what we call Svadhyaya, which is the sort of self-inquiry, and understand what's happening in our practice, understand what's happening in ourselves, in our body and mind and breath and so on. So so that's what I wanted to talk with you about today. So being present. I've made some notes here, so I'm going to have a quick look at my notes. Because, so what does it mean being present? Being present is being in the now, is being in the moment. And there's different ways that we do that. And it's also the same for mindfulness. So when people talk about practicing mindfulness meditation or mindfulness, it's about being present in a moment, being mindful about what you're doing. It's funny because it's called mindfulness, but it's actually a little bit away from the mind and more into the breath and into the body. But it's called mindfulness. So one way of being present is bringing your attention, I suppose, yes, bringing your mind, bringing your attention to what's happening in your body. What's happening in your body when you're practicing. So you might go into a pose, and then let's say you do a side bend, and then you stretch, and then you hold the side bend, and then your mind starts wandering. So you bring your mind into that experience. So what do you feel? What sensation do you feel? So you say, okay, I'm going to the side bend. I feel a little bit of tension here, my neck, my shoulder, maybe a little bit of stretch there. Okay, can you relax the shoulder? Can you feel the stretch or the sensation? It's about having that sort of self-inquiry and being with that sensation. Maybe it's a sensation of tingling, maybe it's a tension, maybe it's an ache, maybe it's a dual sensation. And that's a cool thing, it's an interesting thing, because the more we observe the sensations in our body, the more we start to learn how to distinguish them. So sometimes we feel like a tingly thing, sometimes we feel, that pull, that good stretch. So you become an observer and you start learning about your body. You start learning about yourself and what happens in your practice. Oh, I know that every time I go into a side bend, I get that ache or that tension, and how is it? What is it? So you start learning and inquiring and, making the practice really unique to yourself, really useful to yourself. So that's one thing about being present, is to start, bringing the attention to what's happening in that moment. And it's super tricky. The mind does its thing about, creating thought after thought and jumping here and jumping there. And most of the time, the mind is either in the past, thinking about what happened, ruminating, or in the future, planning and thinking and creating and forecasting. So really coming to that present moment, noticing what's happening in our bodies is one way of being present, you know, in the class, on your mat. And there's so many studies about it. Actually, I found a study, a scientific study, it was by Alberto Chesi and Alexandra Soret, about mindfulness, being present, and the reduction of stress and stress management in healthy people. So they found, you know, they were investigating the efficacy, you know, if it really works, mindfulness-based stress reduction techniques and just different relaxation techniques. And the findings were that the mindfulness-based stress reduction and the normal relaxation techniques and meditations, they both had a positive impact on stress reduction. However, the mindfulness one not only had that positive, you know, impact on releasing stress, it also had, it was able to reduce ruminating thinking. It was able to reduce trait anxiety, and as well as increasing self-compassion and empathy, which is fantastic. And I suppose that's a couple of things that we, you know, we could aspire for, you know, be less stressed, be more empathetic, be more self-compassionate. You know, I would say that's part of why we practice yoga and not practicing basketball or something else, is to have that sort of psychological, emotional benefit as well as the physical benefit of the practice. You know, we get stronger, we get flexible practicing yoga, but there's all that sort of emotional and psychological benefits that is fantastic, and that makes that practice, you know, more round. Not to mention the spirituality as well, which is a topic for another video. So yes, we're talking about like being present and being in the moment and letting go. Now, letting go is fantastic. Just let it go. You see the teacher say, I say that in my class. You know, say, okay, come into pigeon pose and let it go. And I'm sure, you know, everybody's like, ooh. So you ask me, right, okay, Luciana, fine, yes, I want to feel less stressed. I want to feel all these benefits. So, you know, how do I stay present? How do I let go? I mentioned to you, obviously, bringing the attention to the body is one way of being in the present moment. Being present in your practice is noticing and observe the sensations in your body whilst you are in a pose, or when you are making the transition between poses as well. And one key thing as well, one way of being present is through the breath. And the breath happens in the present moment, always. You know, you inhale, you exhale, is happening now. And each breath is unique, although they feel pretty much similar most of the time, and it's not very complex. When you start observing, you notice that there is a big element of complexity to the breath, actually. And the breath governs the body and the mind as well. The way you breathe would have an impact on your breath and on your body and on your mind. And breaths vary as well. Sometimes it's an exhalation, it's a deeper inhalation. Sometimes it's shorter, sometimes it's longer, sometimes it's steady, sometimes it's hardly noticeable, you know, but it's always there and it's always happening, you know. So, and it's always happening in the present. So when we start observing the breath, we become present, we become in the now. And the more we bring our mind to the breath, our attention to the breath, you know, more present we will be. So we will come away from that ruminating thing about, I should have said this, he said that, she said this, but I should have said that, in the past. and also in the future, oh my goodness, but what's going to be, and I need to do this and I need to do that, and the mind goes on and on and on, as we know. But when you sit there, or even in your practice, when you go in the pose and you are inhale, reach, exhale, stretch, and you're fully present into that moment of breath and movement, you are in the present, you are in the now. And as we know from loads and so many scientific studies, especially this day and age, more and more they're studying the efficiency of mindfulness meditations. There are more and more studies, books about the subject coming out on the impact of meditation and the mind and the body, and how it really helps us in so many different ways. So that's that, and this I suppose is something that we practice when we are on the mat. You can try, and actually I invite you to, next time you are practicing yoga, whether you're coming to my classes or someone else's classes, or you're doing a video online, try really focusing on your breath and focusing on the sensations in your body and noticing the sensations. But what I said at the beginning of the video and I wanted to share with you is one experience that I had. So, which is off the mat, not when practicing yoga. And it really helped me be more present. And I suppose we're always learning, right? We always, that's the beauty of life. There's always something else happening. So I realized that even as a yoga teacher and someone who's been practicing for, 15, 20 years, I would say. Yeah, something like 20 years. I realized that there's still a lot for me to learn and to let go and be present in the moment. And the way I realized that, and obviously, like I said, there's always, and it's not about being better or being worse or anything like that, or competing. But I realized that, I started to donate some things that I have here at home, and, and create space in the house. And also realizing that maybe I'm not going to have another child, so there's no point in holding on to all these things, all these baby things, baby car seat, baby cot, baby clothes, baby blah, 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 and we accumulating all these things. And I decided to donate it. I thought, if I have another child, maybe I'll purchase again, maybe not. And I realized there was quite an emotional, attachment to these material things. As we do, we get emotionally attached to things, which is something interesting to observe and to look at. And with that, start donating one piece here, one thing there, going to the groovy of it, let's call it. And also just, when you see the reaction of people that you're helping, I gave my baby car seat to someone who needed a baby car seat, and they were like, oh, thank you, that's so great. And it was such a warm feeling inside to know that you're helping someone. And, but actually being in that moment and kind of, wow, understanding and taking in what's happening. So I came home and I thought, you know what, I'm gonna do more of this. I'm gonna create some space and donate some things. And then I start, looking into my wardrobes and around the house, and I realized that there's so much stuff. So I start looking, and I'm like, right. And I was like, oh, I thought I've got rid of this pair of shoes long ago. I still got it. So I start pulling things from my wardrobe and found all of these clothes that I used to wear when I used to work in the office, high heel shoes, dresses, skirts, things that I used to wear, 5-10 years ago. And I'm like, I don't see myself wearing this anymore, or I'm not in that moment in my life. The present moment of my life is one, we are locked down, so I'm staying at home. 2, you know, I end up wearing leggings and tops like this more often than not, and I don't wear shirts and skirts and dresses. And I'm also like gonna be 40 years old, or I'm 40 years old, and you know, 10 years ago, kind of clothes I used to wear, you know, it's different from what I would wear now. So I started going through all of these things, and but then I was like, oh, I really like this pair of shoes. Oh, I really love this dress. Oh, I really like how I fit in that skirt. And I started noticing that sort of emotional attachment, and I thought, let it go, Luciana. I thought, now I'm gonna have to go for this. And I took 1 week doing clear out, you know, of okay, the high heels, the skirts, and the dress were actually quite easy to let go. But then I found my maternity clothes, you know, and then I found things that belonged to my mom or to my sister. And my mom is no longer here, you know, with me and with us. And I started going through all of these emotional things, all these physical things, but also the emotional attachment I had. And I realized that I was living in this kind of past quite a lot, holding on to all these things, holding on to all these memories, holding on to all these expectations about maybe having a baby, maybe not, you know, maybe thinking I will wear again these high heels and this pencil skirt, you know. And I realized I'm not living the present. You know, I was actually living out in the future. Oh, maybe one day I'm going to wear this pencil skirt again. I even joked and told my partners, oh, I've got this really beautiful blouse that I want to wear one day when I go to receive a reward or something, like a ceremony. And he's like, what kind of ceremony, Luciana? And I was like, I don't know. My mind is creating this. So, you know what? Then I'm laughing now because it's so funny and it's so interesting to find ways that catch ourselves and get into how our mind hooks us. You know, the mind really hooks us. And I thought, you know what? I'm going to take a moment, be with these emotions, and actually really try to let it go, you know, and release it. You know, pack the stuff and donate it. Not only pack and let them go out of my physical space, but also the emotion that goes with it, you know. And it's a very interesting, I would say sometimes difficult task, but I felt, you know, every class I say to my students, let it go of the tension, let it go of the expectation to achieve the pose in a certain way. How about, you know, what I'm doing on and off the mat, you know, having that mirror. And that's kind of what I did. And that's, and I realized there's still so much more to do. Many bags of clothes and things to be packed. But I had a fantastic week of spending time with myself, you know, looking at these emotions and learning about them and releasing them, and packing these bags, many bags of clothes and shoes and toys and baby car seats and all these kind of things, and really releasing it. And I might even get a bit emotional now because we create meaning, we attach meaning to things, you know, we get emotionally attached, and how much of it is serving us and is serving those around us, how much of it is really elevating us and really serving us, you know, being in the past or in a projection of a hypothetical future. So that's one of the things I wanted to talk about with you. And Kino McGregory, she's a fantastic yoga and Ashtanga teacher and a writer, and you know, and she says something. I've got a little quote from her. She says, "When you surrender your necessity for the present moment to be a certain way, you're free to experience it as it is. you know. So when we are practicing and we have the expectation of achieving the pose in a certain way, you know, I really want to get into headstand today, or I want my legs to be 100% straight in my headstand, or I want to do crow, whatever. When we release that, you know, and we just do the pose, we just practice, we actually be in a present moment. We experience it as it is, instead of experiencing our expectation about it, instead of experiencing our wish to create something in a certain way, when the thing is just, you know, it's happening now, the pose is happening as it is, you know. And we can really practice that on and off the mat. You know, I can live in a house with all this baby stuff accumulating in expectation that the baby will come and the things will happen, and but not living in the present moment. The present moment is that I'm not pregnant, and, you know, the present moment is that I have my daughter that I need to give attention to, instead of daydreaming about this, you know, baby to come, or, you know, whatever it is. So I really wanted to invite you to think a little bit about that and practice a little bit of that on and off the mat, of being present and letting go, you know. And what does that mean to you, and how does that translate in your life? Okay, so yes, I think that is a great opportunity, you know, to reduce some stress, some anxiety. And anxiety comes from that sort of you know, that future, that sort of overwhelm. And when we have too many things around us, physical things, too many thoughts and things, that overwhelm comes. So we could let go of things, and of things that we also holding inside, you know. And you might say, oh, Luciana, you know, I'm interested in coming to practice and just do my poses, and I want to get more flexible, and I want to get stronger. Yes, of course, you know, and you will, if you practice, you know, your sun salutations, and you do your class, and you practice your poses, your asanas, you will get stronger and more flexible. And being present will really help that, because you're going to engage the muscles in a certain way, and you're going to notice, oh, maybe I need to, you know, come into my side bend and relax a little bit more here, and actually lift a little bit more there. So you're going to be present to that body sensation, and you're going to definitely gain that flexibility and that strength. But with the psychological beneficial side of letting go and being present, it can also reduce not just the physical pains and, you know, improve our physicality, but it can improve, you know, things, you know, psychologically and emotional. And, you know, and everything is linked, isn't it? Everything is together. The body, the mind, the breath is all together. So that's what I wanted to talk to you about today. So if you watched all the way here, thank you. I hope you enjoyed the video. Get in touch, leave some comments if you like this video, anything that you like to talk about. Subscribe to my YouTube channel if you haven't done already so, because I'm getting more videos, so it might be something interesting to you. And I'll see you soon.